Everybody, thank you for tuning in. I've got a real treat for you to do. I've got small person, big personality. We're going to learn how to do a pitch and how to give a top-notch presentation. So make sure at the end of the video you hit the like button, and obviously you want to subscribe, so stay tuned. Allison McGuire, presentation coach. First of all, how did you get into the business?
I got into the business by mistake, by making a lot of mistakes myself, and then realizing that as a trained actor, that actually my acting skills were helping me present effectively. And then I had a friend of mine say, you have an unfair advantage. You have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on acting training, and not everyone has. And then when I started training my colleagues and peers, I realized, wow, this can actually provide some value to people.
Okay. Now, how long have you been doing it?
I've been doing it for about 7 years, although I've been a storyteller my whole life.
Okay.
From a very young age.
And what you're doing is you're taking the storytelling, bringing it into your pitch presentation, or your presentations and your pitches, and really something that's kind of unique to the industry, is my understanding, correct?
Absolutely. So my methodology, the Mcguire method, takes a combination of acting techniques and business storytelling. So that you can apply that work that I've certainly done on getting to know my inner child, and then applying that to actual real life situations so that you can present more effectively.
Unfortunately, I never really grew up, according to most of my friends. So
you know, it's your own journey,
helps.
it's your own lesson. Yeah.
Maybe not. All right, so I've been around a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of new real estate agents. Actually just business people that are launching a business. They don't understand that, or a lot of them don't understand that. To go ahead and get this launched, you need to go out, you need to find investors, clients. The presentation, getting in front of them is one thing, but when you get in front of them and do the presentation to show your company, your idea, completely different deal. And I don't know that there's enough put into that. So I'm really thankful that you can come in today and walk us through your ideas, because I think it's critical. We really target real estate agents and investors, commercial real estate agents and investors on this channel. And it's hard. You're cold calling all day. You're working your social. You're doing your email blasts. It's hard to get in front of people. If you can get in front of somebody, you need to knock it out of the park. And so that's why I'm very thankful that you would take the time to do this today. So, can you kind of walk us through, the whole putting your presentation together, how you see it is most effective?
Absolutely. First, I agree with you. Once you do all the work to get the leads, when you're in front of someone, that is the most important presentation you'll ever give.
Yeah.
Right? There's no second chance at a first impression. Is that a
That's
thing
exactly
that I
it.
definitely did not make up, but someone did, and I appreciate them
You can
making that
take
up.
it. We won't tell anybody.
Yeah, it's totally, I said that first. But it's really important to focus on your audience. So much of the time we're focused on what we want to say and all this information we want to get out, and we're not focused on what our audience needs and how we can solve their problems. Right. So what I do with all of my clients, and I work with a lot of brokers and agents, is I first focus on what is the problem that your audience is having. What is the solution at a high level that you're providing? Don't go into all the details, because frankly, nobody cares. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Nobody cares about what I have to say until I relate it to your life. And then show me, what is the vision? What's the market opportunity? How are you going to make money? How are you going to change your clients' lives? And then you can go into the details of how it works. But what's really important is also including why your firm, because people are invested in you doing the work, and that relationship, as everything in your world is certainly a relationship business, so people need to be invested in you as a person, and so you as a presenter. If you and I have the exact same script and we're pitching the same company, it should be delivered very differently, because you and I are different people. And so in my work, I don't just focus on what is the script and creating a compelling script, but how do you deliver that script, and who is the person who's delivering it?
So you want to gear it toward your personality.
Yes, absolutely.
Very much. Do you use, now in your presentations, do you recommend people use slides? Is that something that you really want to take a look at?
What I want people to first focus on before they look at anything else is, what is this story?
Okay.
and not let me build a beautiful slide deck, which by the way, I have a business partner who's amazing and he actually designs business slide decks.
It's exactly what I would have done. I'd have started the slide deck and worked, kind of these are the photos, the visual, and then I wouldn't have started from my personality forward.
Right, exactly. So really common, right? Because it's easier. It's easier to put something on paper and focus on what's the physical presentation, but then we end up using that as a crutch instead of something that's a support. Because you should be able to, believe me, I've been in so many rooms where there are technical difficulties and I cannot present with my deck and I'm thinking, God damn, like I have a deck that is ready and it's so great.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's important for you to be able to present effectively, because if you're in a physical elevator, if you're at a networking party, or if you meet someone or you're talking to a friend of a friend, you shouldn't have to say, let me just grab my iPad and I'm going to go show you my deck from here, right? So what I do first is focus on who is the presenter, and let's take out your strengths as a presenter and as a person. So what makes you inspiring? What is your superpower? Are you someone who's analytical? Are you a motivator? So what I did was I created these 9 different presentation styles, what I call presentation personas, and they can be ranging from a motivator, that's someone who gets people excited, paints a picture of something that's just out of reach but shows you how to do that, or an operator, relatively emotionless but just get shit done, or someone who's a firebrand, really pushes conversations to the edges and provokes an audience. So once you determine which of those personas you are, I then gear your presentation, your verbiage, and your delivery based on that. And what I also see is that especially people working in firms, they try to mimic their bosses or other people who are successful in the industry. And just because someone is successful doesn't mean that's the only way to do things. If you look at successful people across the world, they vary in personality, delivery, tonality, etc. So I really focus on who is the presenter. Let's pull out your strengths, Joe, and then from there, we can build out your presentation, your story, and finally, your slide deck. Again, your slide deck, and I have all sorts of notes on your slide deck, although I'm not a designer, not an expert, but working with my business partner on creating my own slide decks, we tend to put so much information in decks. And then again, we're using those decks as a crutch, and we're relying on people reading the deck while we're presenting. Nobody's then going to pay attention to you.
Right.
So you want to give every reason for people to pay attention to you and not just a pretty slide that you have. And hopefully it's pretty.
We had a pitch in New York, and we packed up here, got back there, and it didn't work. Mm-hmm. Maybe the best pitch I've ever given, because I didn't rely on that. I just had to, and I was panicked on the inside. Mm-hmm. But on the outside, I'm like, whatever, here we go. We're just going to give it our best bet. And I did. I just brought my personality to it, talked to the numbers I really knew, and we ended up getting the deal. And it worked out very well. So that was a big lesson for me. But I still build our pitches. I do build them. I was starting from the slide presentation, the visual first, and going backward. But I can see where bringing your personality into it makes a huge difference. Because that's really who they're hiring in the first place.
Exactly. Exactly. And if I may, let me jump in here with one thing you mentioned, which is presentation fear. Yeah. Now, we fear presenting more than death. And we fear presenting, and this is just a completely subconscious thing, but we fear being socially ostracized by our peers.
Right.
And so that's why it's so scary. So if you think about COVID and how we've all been ostracized to a degree, but it's not been because we did anything wrong, it's because there's a global pandemic, right? But imagine that you were ostracized and you had to stay in your house because nobody liked you and everyone thought you were stupid. So what we do is, what I look at with presentation fear is people tell you, okay, right before you go and present, why don't you calm down? So I want you to think about the last time, actually think about the last time someone told you to calm down when you were feeling nervous, anxious, stressed.
Right, before we did the intro here.
Right, well, there you go.
I panic when I do those.
Exactly.
But once you get started, then I'm fine.
So what I do, instead of telling you to calm down, because nobody, especially not me, if you tell me to calm down, I'm not immediately, oh my God, thank you, Joe. I was really waiting for you to tell me to calm down. I'm really relaxed now, I think I'm going to go to bed. No, nobody has that reaction. Right. In fact, we have the opposite. Right. Now is not a time to calm down, right? So instead of having that cool, calm, collected energy of a goal, and you're nervous, anxious, stressed, you want to match that energy with an equal frequency energy, and that's excitement. So you don't want to ricochet between the two, you don't want to land somewhere in between, but you want to get yourself pumped up. So you can do jumping jacks right before you go in. You can go in the bathroom, do a power pose. I do before every presentation, this one including.
I can see that.
And listen to music that makes you feel powerful. I have clients who go for a run. Anything that gets you out of your head and into your body. And what I always say is that what you have to think about is the worst case scenario. So what is the worst case scenario as a result of your presentation?
You don't get to business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the worst case is that you're going to die or you end up in jail. Either which.
Yeah, maybe I wouldn't have gone that far, but
exactly. But unless you're presenting on Ponzi schemes, right? Which don't tell me about it because I don't want to know. But not you specifically, but anyone listening or commenting. But for that, if you know, okay, the reality is I might not get the deal. How many times have you presented and not gotten the deal?
A good number.
And you survived to see another day.
It's hard on the ego, but you know, you have to learn from it. You have to say, okay, what could I have done better? And you know, let's take this as an opportunity to learn and then refine.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That really can be. Now, I get where you're coming with the energy level because there's nothing worse than sitting there having somebody talking monotone through an entire presentation. It's just, it's tough. It's very tough.
And nobody wants to go to a boring presentation.
No.
And another thing.
Well, a lot of them are forced to be there in the first place.
Exactly.
They're forced to be there listening to you. So if you don't bring something lively to the table, it's not going to happen.
Yes, exactly. And if you think about it this way, the audience is already on your side.
Right.
So you go and pitch a deal, you go and present, they want you to come to them with the next best deal.
Yeah.
Right?
They do.
So if you think about it and you close your eyes right before it and you visualize your audience clapping for you. Don't do the visualize them naked, that's just a weird thing. I don't know who came up with that, but not on board for that. But close your eyes
Real
and think
estate,
of
you don't want to picture most of them naked.
All right, well, yeah, so that's even another thing. But so I would just close them in your eyes and think about them really cheering you on and thinking, I can't wait to get the next best deal and I hope Joe's the guy to give it to me. Because then once you come with that perspective, and you already feel like they're on your side, you then are able to pitch and present that much more effectively and make a much stronger first impression.
I can see that. Now, it's going to my head. What about groups? How do you get everybody in a group together to really have that same energy level? Coffee?
Yeah, exactly. There are a number of ways that are, whatever floats your boat. But what's really effective in group presentations, and I call it presenting with a co-star or co-stars because, again, actor parlance.
Right.
But what I look at is actually the opposite. You don't all want to have the same energy. If you think about the best movies you've seen or the best TV shows, they don't all have the same personality because then it's not interesting. It's the same as having a monotone voice. If everyone's the hype man, then it's kind of like too much already, okay? So like if everyone in this room, if you and I had the same personality, it would be a lot. Like at least if we were both like a lot, I mean too much, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
The world doesn't need more me.
Everybody be waiting to talk. They'd be inhaling, waiting.
Exactly. So what you want to do, and again why I go back to that presentation persona, is look at how you provide value to your audience. If someone is an operator, they go into the numbers, they go into the details. If someone's the diplomat, they are the one who's brokering the deal. If someone's the motivator, they are the hype person.
Gotcha.
If someone's a firebrand, they're putting out new ideas that might make you uncomfortable but might end up sealing the deal. So what I also look at when I look at teams presenting, stars presenting, is I look at, again, what I call the persona but constellation. So how these personas interact with each other and how you can use and pair up these strong personas that match very well together.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, and I think you should be willing to jump in if you see somebody having issues. Jump in and don't be afraid to say, hey, let's take it to the next level.
Absolutely, and your audience wants to know that you're supporting each other.
Yeah.
And your group needs to know that you're there for each other. And another super, super important thing, which sounds really easy and simple and obvious, but nobody seems to do it, is rehearse.
Oh, yeah.
Just rehearse. I mean, at the very bare minimum, write out a script, and an actual script, print it out, sit around a table if you can, and if not, do it over Zoom.
Right.
Although nobody hates,
Yeah.
We're now kind of tired of Zoom.
Yeah, I think everybody is.
Do the best that you can and rehearse.
Right.
And start playing around with, why don't you try this part? And then what you can also do is you can write out the questions that you frequently get, your frequently asked questions, who would handle which subject, and then what I call frequently feared questions, the FFQs, And those are questions you really hope nobody asks, but inevitably someone does, and then
Yeah.
it's kind of an awkward, like, who's gonna answer this
Yeah.
one? And so in that case, you can also delineate who are the best people to answer those questions. And if you don't know the answer to the question, it's okay to say that you don't know,
Right.
and then say, I'll come back to you later with the answer.
Yeah, I mean, I can see, because if you do the rehearsing, you get the flow going, and you get everybody working together. And if you're just gonna walk in and do it, the flow is not gonna be natural, and you really want it to look natural. You wanna look as you're coming together as a team, and that can't be without that rehearsal, I wouldn't think.
Absolutely.
That would be a tough one. Branding, the branding on your pitches, all should be consistent across all pitches, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. However, you do want to tailor it based on your audience. So
Okay.
if, for example, I help startups pitch,
Mhm.
and I also work with giant corporations and help their executives present to the board, I'm not going to tell your real estate agents or people who want to be real estate brokers, hey, I work with Fortune 100 executives and I help them present internally. How helpful is that for them? Not
Right.
so much. So what I do is I use examples in the same world that you're in, and that way it makes it a stronger case for us to work together. And so for you, doing the exact same thing, and not just having the exact same pitch, but tweaking it slightly, but using that problem, solution, vision, market opportunity, how it works, why you, framework, you can tweak that slightly based on your audience.
Yeah, I can see that. You've been doing this for 7 years. What is the Mcguire Approach? What sets you apart? What do you do different?
First, I come from an acting background,
Right.
and I use acting techniques that are super effective in storytelling and compelling character building. So my own insecurities, I had imposter syndrome greatly before I was doing this. And coaching people how to present effectively, I was presenting myself, my startup, and I was pitching it all the time. I felt really insecure because my background had been working in politics, in national security and human rights, and before that as an actor. So I felt I had zero credentials, even though I'd worked at a tech company briefly. I felt like I didn't have the credentials to actually present. And so one day I was going into a major VC's office and I thought to myself, okay, if I'm an actor, why can't I present effectively? This is crazy. That's my core. And I thought, what if I created this character version of myself? And she was a badass and she was the CEO. How would that Allison talk, walk, dress? And I went out, I bought clothes, I started walking, talking, dressing like her, and I felt that much more comfortable in myself and confident. And that's where this persona, where in case I got rejection, I let that persona take the hit instead of me taking it all so personally. And that really created, once I started teaching my clients this persona concept, I saw how much more confident they got, and that really changed the game. So I don't just focus on what's the pitch, what's the script, but who are you? That sets me apart. And also then when looking at the pitch and the presentation, I'm really honest. I am not somebody who's going to sugarcoat things. I'm not going to tell you you're the most amazing presenter I've ever seen in my life, unless you are. But what I am going to do is I am going to help you transform into your most confident self so that you can present effectively, you can take feedback, and ultimately you can do what you did, which is take that feedback and grow as a stronger presenter.
Right. Yeah. No, that's key. You got to listen to what other people. Don't be afraid to ask questions either. Ask questions. People are going to tell you what you don't want to hear, and having that persona, that can really be. I can see where that could really work. But Allison, thank you very much for coming in today. This was very powerful. For those of you that are getting ready to do a pitch or a presentation, you want to talk to Allison, we're going to put her information down below, or you can reach out to me directly. And so make sure that you hit the like button, make sure you subscribe. We're going to keep doing these every week. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Allison, for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
That was
It's been a
fun.
pleasure.
All right, Allison, there's one thing that I like to do. At the end of the video, I like to give one tip that you think is the most important tip that our subscribers should be thinking about as they get ready to do their presentation and pitch. So why don't you tell us what that one pitch is, or that one tip is?
The one tip.
One tip.
And I have so many, but I will say it will sound really cheesy. I will preface with that.
Cheesy.
Very cheesy.
Okay.
But you have to believe in yourself. Because if you believe in you,
Actually, yeah, I can
your
see that.
audience is going to believe in you, you're going to be presenting that much more confidently, you're going to be able to take that feedback seriously. But when you come from a place of confidence, and not ego, not bravado, but really a place of feeling comfortable in yourself, people are already going to be on your side and they're going to feel more comfortable around you.
I'm glad we saved that one for last. That is why we do this. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.